Jon Jones is back. Dan Tom here with MMA Junkie to help you break down the main event for UFC 285 between Jon Jones and Ciryl Gane. Jon Jones, who's been teasing a heavyweight move for nearly a decade now, will finally be pulling the trigger as he attempts to move up to capture the vacant heavyweight belt. Now, it is a vacant belt because the UFC decided to release Francis Ngannou, let him go, the baddest man on the planet. So, with Ngannou gone, technically we will have a vacant belt on the line this Saturday. At the time of this video, the odds makers and more particularly the public are siding with Jones as your favorite in the neighborhood of -155, with the comeback on Gane your underdog in the neighborhood of +135. Now, the odds makers initially opened this opposite, listing Gane as your favorite, but public money has come in on Jones as the more popular fighter and essentially flipped those lines. Of course, Jones is considered the pound-for-pound king, the GOAT to many. I'm not going to get wrapped up in any of those conversations here because I believe you got to kind of wipe the slate clean as best you can and judge a style or a matchup for the style as well. MMA is kind of a matchup-based game. When it comes to styles, I look at that southpaw stance of Ciryl Gane standing, and I believe it can pose some problems for Jones if he doesn't get to his wrestling. We've seen it before all the way back with Machida, and we've even seen it with his last 3 light heavyweight title defenses. Smith actually had a moment from southpaw early, and of course, more particularly Thiago Santos and Dominic Reyes, a dedicated southpaw. That being said, I don't blame people for favoring Jones here. I mean, he is the better wrestler. He is working with Fight Ready and Henry Cejudo, cross-training there, along with Jackson Wink. Those are great trends, right? That being said, even though he is the more proven wrestler, even though we did see Gane get out-wrestled by Ngannou, which is a tricky sample size because outside of Gane messing up and going for some submissions, he actually had a decent argument for winning the fight, and lest we not forget, not take away from the great job Ngannou did, and is a bigger, stronger man than Jones could really ever be, let's be honest, right? No offense to Jones, an athlete in his own right, just not the same. That being said, I don't blame you for picking Jones for his wrestling. I feel like that's the safer move. It'll definitely, save me some criticism if I went with Jones here. But that being said, we haven't seen a dedicated wrestling performance from Jones since arguably 2015 when he fought Daniel Cormier. I will kind of detail these allegations, if you will, that I'm making more thoroughly in my breakdown. But basically, for some context, Jones will be heading up to do a feat that really hasn't been done since, well, Daniel Cormier did it and Randy Couture before him, as those are the only other 2 former light heavyweight / light heavyweight champions that have held UFC gold. Now, of course, Cormier and Couture were older. They didn't have the size of Jones, but they were dedicated with their wrestling games. They never really let the wrestling get away from their games, and they accomplished their going up to heavyweight feat mark within that 10-year mark of the MMA career, right? Couture did it in 10 years with 22 fights. Cormier did it in 9 years with 21 fights. For context, Jones will be attempting to do this at the 15-year mark of his career after 28 fights. So, mileage is there, even though age, athleticism, youth, and other things are perhaps on Jones's side. Very interesting questions to answer. I've got that stat and more, as well as pathways to victories in my in-depth breakdown, which you can find at MMAJunkie.com, where you can also find results this weekend.